Hey, it's Craig Syracusa, and welcome to another episode of Walk in Faith, the show where we go beyond the image and we discover who our guests really are. You might know them from TV, the big screen, or even the world of sports, but do we really know who they are as a person? Do we know what motivates them? Do we know what inspires them? Well, that's what we're here to find out.
On this week's episode, we sit down with friend and actor Anthony Mangano from City of Church. Stay tuned, walk with us. So this is a special opportunity for me to sit down with my friend and also co-worker. So Anthony, you and I have known each other a long time now. You know, we've met years back when I was doing independent films and was directing a movie.
And I actually auditioned for you for that part.
Yes, you had to audition. Most people had to. But yeah, so we built a relationship and it sort of carried over to Net TV. And what I always found interesting and fascinating is sort of, you know, I was an actor as a kid. I wasn't nearly as successful as you, but you know, I had a sort of a taste of both worlds, and you have. I mean, you continue to work in sort of the Hollywood, but you also work in the faith-based genre. And the thing that's interesting is a lot of people, especially kids, right? They strive for this sort of this world, this Hollywood world, that the glamour and the fame. And there's a lot of misconceptions that surround it, and the number one being is true happiness. And you and I have been blessed to sort of experience working in that field and working on that side, but then also transitioning into the faith-based world. And I wanted to get your take on that and what gives you happiness and joy. I mean, I know you still love working in Hollywood, but really, what is your true happiness? Like, tell us about your experience, how you started and everything.
Well, I started as a kid. You know, I wanted to be a singer like my dad. So my dad was a nightclub singer. But I used to go to all the nightclubs with him, and I would sit there, look like little Ricky from the I Love Lucy show. My little tuxedo, and I'd come out and I'd sing a song, and so I got fascinated with it, and I wanted to go to be an actor. But my mother had two other brothers. I had two brothers, twins. She couldn't take me. My dad was always working, so I had to wait till I was about 15, 16, and I decided to go to found a school called the Neighborhood Playhouse, and I was in school with Ali Sheedy. Remember, War Games, Breakfast Club, great kid, you know. And we got to be friends, and then I went out to Hollywood. I was doing stuff in New York, little by little, you know, extra work, non-union extra. I mean, I did everything I could. I would make calls. I would go around the city. It's not like it was back then. My friends and I talk about it. We used to go in like rain, snow, anything, and drop a picture off just to get on the set, just to get experience. And I kind of got a break with Saturday Night Live, where I was on every week, and I started learning.
How old are you?
I was 16, 17 years old. And I was doing one line a week. I was there almost every week. I did that till about maybe 22, like 3-4 years. I worked with Piscopo and Eddie Murphy and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who I still see now and then in Hollywood. She's a sweetheart. She's battling cancer, God bless her, you know. It was an experience, and then I went out to Hollywood. And I remember my first job, I was in town 2 days. We were talking about this morning. And I went into his office, and the casting director's looking at me. He said, I looked at my reel, and he goes, you know, you look like when I was young, I had long hair. You look like a young Stallone. And I went, I got to show you something. What? I did a spoof on Rambo 2.
Okay.
I had the tape. I was on the Regis and Kathy Lee show at the time. I came out as Rambo. So we got a big laugh out of it, and they put the tape in. He goes, just sit here. He goes down the hall. It's a true story. He goes down the hall, shows it to the producers, comes back. He goes, when are you supposed to leave Hollywood? I says, a week. Can't go. Why? Well, they want to book you to play Rambo on Different Strokes. I was like, what? I was like, what? You know.
Wait, were you on that episode?
Yeah.
I do remember that. I was a huge fan of Different Strokes.
I played the Rambo impersonator.
Most people did.
Yeah, Gary Coleman. I mean, he's been passed on. Most of them passed away. God bless them. You know, but it was a cute show, and I had a good time. But there was the perception that I thought right there was going to be like, this is it.
Yeah.
Didn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way at all.
No. And then I came back, and I started working again little by little. Then I moved out to Hollywood, and it wasn't as simple as you'd think. I mean, it took me 4, 5, 6 months, and I was living in a guest house. You know, like people go out there, everybody comes from all over the country and all over the world to come to Hollywood and think they're going to make it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with dreaming, but there also has to be a reality basis here that it doesn't come that simple. Sometimes it does, but the odds are very rare. You know, it's like hitting the lotto. It's like that's what happens. So you work odds and ends jobs. I was a bouncer, a waiter, a bartender. I did everything, and living in a guest house. You know, I was like, really, who's the boss? That's what I was like.
Let me ask you, because I agree totally. I mean, when I started too, it was a process. You know, I booked a Verizon commercial, and I started doing a lot of commercials, and then you know, it dries up. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
the transitional age between a young, like a kid and an adult.
Sure.
When my face changed completely. But what was the reason? Like, why did you want to be an actor? I mean, because I think that is really why people are successful.
Being a nightclub singer and being around it, I still to this day would rather be singing than acting. I have to be honest. I have more enjoyment out of doing that from singing and doing comedy, like in the Christmas specials I've done. I enjoyed it. That's the highlight of my time. I always talk about it. It is my highlight because I have fun.
Yeah.
The style of that singing, Sinatra and all that, was fading out. Except not Sinatra, but my dad was in nightclubs and stuff. So I started looking at acting because I was watching all these old films with him, Humphrey Bogart and Errol Flynn. I was fascinated with all, like Danny Kaye and Martin Lewis, Abbott and Costello. I liked it, and I wanted, it was a way of performing without singing. So that's kind of what got me into it. And then I started doing that, you know, and then the fun thing about it is it's great to be working when you're working, but the business in itself, it's not so nice. There's a lot of heartache. You know, people come out there and they say, oh, you know, no. You have to have really, there were times, I could be honest with you, I lost some big roles. And I would sit in my room, I actually would cry, because I would be like down to the wire and then not get it. I mean, like, I'll give you an example. When they did the Martin and Lewis story, I was down to the wire to play Dean Martin. I was down to the wire to play Desi Arnaz, and I didn't get it. Down to one other guy and me. So you don't know what it is, and then you go, why? You know, I don't understand it. And you got to have some thick skin. There was a gentleman, an actor, that was on Rhoda. He played the nightclub singer. Really nice guy. And we were on an audition one time, and we were at Warner Brothers. And he said to me, I'm going to give you the best advice I could ever give you, kid. He says, let it roll off your back like water off a duck's behind. Because if you let it absorb you, there's so many actors I know that have literally, forgive me, they've gone to alcohol, drugs, they've taken their lives because they can't.
See, and that's the side that we hear in the Hollywood, but you don't hear it on the everyday.
No.
And a lot of that too, I mean, that used to happen to me a lot. I would book things and I would say, well, that person needed it more than me.
Yeah.
And same thing, I would ask God questions like, why? You know, I'm such a good person. And I would start to ask him questions like, why didn't I book this role? And it starts to really, you sort of question even your faith. Sure. And you say, you know, why isn't this happening for me? I mean, were there times where you, I mean, like you said, you asked God or you prayed, why do you think it wasn't happening? Like, why did God?
I don't know. I think it's his plan. You know, I just lost something the other day, and I sat there going, okay. And now that I'm older, I'm going, you know, now doing City of Churches, I have something I'm falling back on, which we'll get into. But I'm not as devastated so much anymore. You know, you get older, you get a little wiser, and you know. And not saying it doesn't hurt, but I guess things didn't line up. You know, say, why didn't I get that? And then all of a sudden, I go, okay, because if I had gotten that day that I was supposed to shoot, I got an appointment for something that wound up being bigger. So you don't know the general plan. You know, like I have an example. I was talking to my friend this morning. I said, I went out to Hollywood and I met my friend's father who knew my dad, and then he took me all around Hollywood, showed me everything, and it was me, him, and Mickey Rourke, and I got to be friends, and I learned everything, and Mickey's agent signed me. Then I came back, and I'm still friends with him to this day. Now my friend that I'm referring to, he came out to LA, and we were working in nightclubs, and I introduced him to all the guys. Now eventually I came back to New York. Those guys, it's 20-something years later, were able to connect him with a director who just made a film about his dad's life.
Wow.
So I start looking at that, like, and I said that today. I says, it's kind of weird. You know, you don't think it took 20 years in the making, but maybe that was the plan that we don't understand. Far be it for me to figure it out. You know, I lost my mother at a young age, and I questioned everything. And my father's got MS. I'm not going to get an answer. I just have to have my faith to say, okay, down the road, I'll find out when it's my time that I'll get the answer.
And I want to hear about that in a moment. When we come back, we want to get into that story.
Okay.
We'll be right back with Anthony Mangano. So back with Anthony Mangano, I love the fact that we have that in common about, you know, especially working within the business. And, you know, you said earlier there were times where you would cry or you would sit and question. And the one thing too I always found is you have to sort of, when you're out in society and around other people, you have to constantly keep that persona going, the image, yeah. And you know, deep down inside, you have this nest egg that might have depleted, or you have no money in the bank, and you have to constantly, you know, stay relevant and stay, you know, cool and popular.
There was an old saying they used to say, when you're poor and broke, you put your best suit on tie that belt a little tighter and look your sharpest.
Yeah.
Because you have to put on this whole image.
I didn't like a lot of aspects of it. I didn't like being a pawn, especially as an actor. I didn't like the fact of them telling me what to do, what to say, and it didn't work for me. I always felt like I was meant for something more. But how did you, I mean, because I know you've been in 100 movies, 200 movies, but it couldn't have always been good. I mean, there had to be a lot of times
I don't
where
want to name names or incidents.
What was it like? I mean, tell us the low points. I mean, because there must have been low points, especially having a kid, being married.
Yeah.
It couldn't always be easy, especially, you know.
No, I did a lot of odd jobs. When we had the earthquake in L.A., I had to move back here, and I was making a good living.
What were you doing?
I was doing guest stars all over the place on every, you know, they used to call me king of the sitcoms. Like, people don't know it today but if you went back, I went from Charles in Charge to Seinfeld. I mean, you name it, I was doing maybe one sitcom a week at one point.
That's
It was
a lot.
a lot of
That's a lot.
sitcoms. I have, thank God, a good pension. But my friends, the actors, used to make fun of me. You know, no one will take you seriously. And then I'm going to tell you a cute story. When the guy won the Academy Award for Philadelphia, I called up. That was the guy that dressed up in Bosom Buddies in drag, Tom Hanks. Then he won the following year, Tom Hanks. The perception changed, but I had an earthquake and I was destroyed, my house. So I had to move back here. And then I was driving a school bus. I was working security. I was bartending. I was like, I hit rock bottom. I was like, what happened? How did it all collapse, you know? And I had to put up this persona, and it was not easy because I was destroyed inside. Then something happened. I was praying constantly.
What were you praying for?
Just to make an income at that point. You know, I wasn't looking for fame anymore. I was just looking to get back in the saddle.
So would you say in the beginning when you first wanted to be an actor or an actor that it was money or fame, but was fame part of that?
Oh, sure. Like any young kid. I wanted to be famous.
I mean, why did you want to be an actor? I mean, a lot of people, you know, they say it's fame, it's money, it's notoriety, it's to fulfill insecurities. Like, why did you want to be an actor? I mean, honestly, at this age, you must know.
There was fame, money, notoriety. I have to agree with that. The work itself, I wanted to have fun. I found it fun to do. But it was fame, it was notoriety. But now things change as you get older. As you get older, you just want to work. You don't really care about the fame anymore. You just want the bank account to be fine, provide for your family, and, you know, health insurance and all that stuff. And just that other stuff is fleeting.
But
fame is fleeting.
One thing and it's interesting. So let's say when you were younger, right, you succeeded, you hit rock bottom. Your main goal, or one of the goals, was fame and money and fortune, right? So it's completely different from now, right?
Oh, sure.
So I believe that if we are self-serving, like, so if my goal is to be an actor and the reason is fame and everything that's about me, right? Regardless if it's your family, it's the why, or it's still sort of self-serving. Now you've made this transformation into faith-based, right? Yeah. And you see the success. You see how doors open up, how God has given you opportunities, how, you know, we might go to Rome and how people see you on the street and stop you.
That's the irony of it all. You know,
see
I used to roll
because
out of
it's
bed.
not self-serving.
I used to roll out of bed, and I didn't care how I looked to go into church because you're going to see God. But now, the show, I try to go to different churches, you know, and people would come up, are you the host? And I go, yes. And they go, oh, we love the show. And I look at my wife, and I'm like my father-in-law, or we go to eat, and I'm getting stopped at different locations, and people are recognizing me, not for my acting jobs, but for the hosting of the show, which I find I have a lot of fun doing City of Churches. I really do. And I'm doing something that is enjoyable to me. Like, you brought me in, and we can say that to our viewers, you did. And I got the show, and I think we're in our fifth season now, fourth or fifth, I can't remember. And that's why, because enjoying it don't count. We go to church, and we have a rhythm now, and I have a lot of fun doing them. And you're right, it is faith-based, and it's not self-serving, it's serving God and the community and stuff like that. And I noticed that things changed. And I was saying this morning to my dad. I said, you know, we may go to Rome, and then who knows, Rome may open to other places around the country. The show could go into a different whole realm, and it's a whole different, I never thought I'd host a show. You know, I sing, I've done nightclub acts, but never host a show. So then I don't know how God's plan was that I had auditioned for you, and then this came down the road. So I look at it that way.
It's all part of his plan. What I'm happy is that you sort of found, I don't want to say your purpose, but you found a true happiness, you know, in the business. Because the same thing me, I wanted to be an actor to fulfill insecurities, or I wanted to be cool, I wanted people to recognize me, money. It was all the wrong reasons, but in society, they were the right reasons, right? I would be cool, and I'd make money, and I'd buy a car, and whatever, right? And I realized that that's not what life is about. You don't find happiness in that. And you found it, I mean, and I found it, and all because of our faith and because of Net TV.
And I think because, you know, I look back at a buddy of ours, Joe Mano, and everybody made fun of him in Hollywood. He was very, very strict. Catholic, good guy, you know, never cursed. Yet now he's got so many things going for him down in Florida, and you wouldn't have thought that. He's got grandchildren and all, and I say he's the richest one out of all. You know, all the other guys that were in Hollywood that made fun of him, they're miserable. I mean, I'm telling you, miserable. They could, you know, they didn't get married. And marriage is a process anyway when you get married. You know, you love your wife. Then there's days that you guys don't get along. It's a process, let's be honest. Anybody that says it's not the truth. You work at it. It's a work in progress, you know? And I've been married 30 years, which is amazing.
Oh, my God.
What I'm saying is that I watched Joe achieve so much happiness. So then, and who's he serving? God. So then I look at the bigger picture. I go, you know, maybe, not maybe, I think that's the way, because it seems like doors opened faster this way than that way, because before it was self-serving for myself.
Not everybody believes that. You know, you have to have a strong faith, but I've noticed it in my own life, and I think a lot of people do. Just in general, we're here to serve others, right? To make a difference in someone else's life. To evangelize, whatever words you want to use, but when you focus on that and you make that your real purpose in life, I think things just, doors open.
Well, sure. I have a friend of mine who he has a lot of problems in life. He went through bad stages, and I actually send him a proverb every day or scripture or something every day to try and boost his morale, so that he understands, you know, and some of them he goes, Mike, that was perfect, that met the day. You know, sometimes you open the Bible to, you know, Catholics don't really, they should, but I read the Bible. So I open it up, and I think that a lot of people should, because you can go to different, you know, Luke, Mark, John, Matthew. Matthew's one of my favorites. And this is written, it is the book. So you see things in there that relate even till today. So if you follow it, I mean, you know, nobody's perfect.
Of course.
You aspire to be like Jesus Christ, but we're not perfect. We have flaws. We're human. We make mistakes. But you try to do better. That's the key. And if you can help somebody along the way, yeah, sure. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a good thing.
And I want to hear about City of Churches. You mentioned, you know, potentially traveling to.
Oh, yeah.
When we come back, we're going to have more with Anthony here about City of Churches. And I'm going to see if he can tell us about his favorite scripture. Be right back. So, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have, and when people ask me, I usually don't know what to say, but do you have a favorite verse from the Bible or a favorite quote?
It's in Matthew, and I'm sure it's in the other Gospels, not written exactly the same, but it's, don't look at the splinter in your brother's eye, but look at the log in your own, because it's like you're pointing fingers,
Of course.
you know, and you shouldn't do that. That's one of them I like.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Because you know when people go, oh, you judge somebody else. And you should never judge somebody till you walk in their shoes.
Yeah.
You don't know what goes on in their life. You really don't. A lot of people just like, oh, you know, and they cast things that really shouldn't. They may not know the whole story.
Yeah, that's a great scripture, by the way. But one thing, it sort of came up with this question earlier, and when you said that, it made me think of it. As an actor, you know, doing specific jobs or jobs in general, there's always someone in your family or friends that would say to you, do you get paid for that, or how do you make money? And a lot of times, like, I would be insulted, you know, or people would say to me, hey, can you know, run an errand for me or pick me up at the airport, because they assumed that we didn't have jobs. How did you deal with that? I mean, it must have happened in your life.
I still deal with it, and now what I do is I make a joke of it, because it used to get me really upset, because, and they go, do you have lines when you act? I go, yeah, because they're automatically assuming, which is nothing wrong with it if this is what somebody wants, is I don't like to say, the people that are in the film that make up all the scenery, there's a word they use and I don't like it, but they're essential, all the other, and I'm going to call them performers. There's the atmosphere. There's the main performers and the other performers that make the scene. Without them, there wouldn't be a scene. So they would make statements like, you know, how much did you get paid for that? And I would look at that and I go, I would get offended, but then I go, oh, yeah, how much did you make on the job you did? And they look at you, well, what do you mean? Well, if you could ask me, why can't I ask you? They don't realize they're fascinated with the fame and the TV and the glory of it. They don't realize how offensive that truly is, because they're asking you about your income. That's not really, but I understand why they do it, so I make a joke of it now.
Yeah.
I turn it around, because otherwise it used to be where I would get so offended, like, and they go, what are you getting mad about?
It's insulting. I mean, I used to get insulted when people used to tell me that all the time. You know, did you get paid for that? Did you worry?
Yeah, no, I just as I got older now, I turn it around and make a comical twist to it. They're on the spot now, and they don't have to answer me.
That's good.
It's kind of funny.
So now tell me, okay, so now you're at Net TV now, you know, we're doing City of Churches, obviously everyone that watches Net TV watches that show. I know you travel to so many churches. and we talk about, maybe expanding the show and traveling, where are some of the places you would like to visit and why?
Well, I've never been, I'm Italian, Polish, German. Most like people wouldn't know that, but I would like to go to Italy.
You've never been to Italy?
I've never been to Italy. I think I might be the first Mangano to go back.
Wow.
It'd be interesting. I would like to see things in Italy, but not just Italy. I think all of Europe is fascinating. I was in France, Paris, Notre Dame, Ireland, Spain, Portugal, Prague. I think we could do so many episodes that people would be, excited because basically we all came from another country to come to the United States of America. I mean, our ancestors, our great-grandparents and all. So it would be fascinating to see Spain, and not just Europe. I maybe go to Hawaii or Detroit, Pittsburgh.
Sounds like a nice journey here.
I think it would be.
Is it a vacation, a cruise, or a TV show?
Listen, you know what they say? If you can find a job that you like doing, it no longer becomes a job. So to me, it would be an adventure, but it would be fascinating for everybody to go and see these different places instead of, which we all have beautiful churches here within our 5 boroughs. There's no two ways about it. They're gorgeous. But it would be nice to expand and go to these other places and bring it to the people on the net and as well as everybody else.
Yeah.
If we can expand and say, well, like when we said Rome, the Vatican's been done, but we don't know is there's so many other churches around the Vatican. Mm-hmm. Michelangelo's buried in one of them, I believe, and you got all these things
all
that
the Cardinals
have their churches.
parishes.
The people would be fascinated by that, and then go to Spain, and then go to Ireland, and I think London, England.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree. There's a church that I'll never forget in Strasbourg, which is like Germany, France, and they've used it in movies. It's a huge cathedral. I mean, there's beautiful churches.
Yeah.
I like the idea too because you're giving, our parents, our grandparents, and the people that watch Net TV the opportunity to see these places
that may never have been able to go.
That whether they can't go physically, they can't afford it for whatever reason, but you're giving them this opportunity to visit that and live through you.
What I try to do as a host, because I never really hosted, is I always relate to, I want to take them on a little journey, like a fun journey. I'm not clearly a host material like you say, hey, how are you? This is Bob Evans. I want to make them on a journey. I want to make them have fun, like you're going to Disney World. I want them to take them on a little trip and say, you got to see this. This is kind of cool. I just want to be nice with them so I don't come off pompous or something. I want to take them on that little journey that they can enjoy themselves.
I like it.
And I get that response that the people kind of like the way I'm not coming off too standoffish. I'm trying to be, the everyday guy. They'd say,
you want to be you. I mean, listen, I think it's a great idea. If I can help, I will. But
thanks.
I mean, you want to make sure you're true to yourself because whatever God gave you these gifts, that's what He wants you to use to sort of so you could relate to those people. Don't worry about coming off a certain way because that's not what God gave you.
No, that's not me. So, I don't want to do that.
I really hope this works out.
Thank you.
Whoever hasn't watched City of Churches, please tune in because Anthony is a great guy. He's a good friend. He's also a great host. So
thank you, buddy. Thank you very much.
Appreciate
God bless you too. And watch Walk in Faith.
Yes. Well, hope you enjoyed the episode and see you next time. Thanks for walking with us.